Hello, and welcome to Sword and Tea, a TTRPG chat show here on Sword and Key, where we talk to folks in the TTRPG community, creators, designers, people who do music, artists, anybody who contributes to the wonderful wide world of TTRPGs and who makes them as amazing as the people that we are talking to. So, today I am joined by Jordan, who is the one of the designers of Shift, a new TTRPG from Hit Point Press. Jordan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me, Derek.
Absolutely. It's great to have you. Thank you so much for making time. We are going to talk about your experience with TTRPGs. We're going to talk about Shift, which is currently, I should note, this is a pre-recorded chat. But is currently, as of the time of the release of this, an open Kickstarter that will be closing within the next week. So if this chat is enticing to you in any way, shape, or form, I highly encourage you to go check out Shift sooner rather than later. Don't sleep on this one. Having read through it myself already, this is a very, very fun game, and we're going to talk about all the things that make it fun. So, check out the link that is in chat currently for all of the details about Shift. And also, to the point of this being a pre-recorded chat, typically we welcome questions in chat. Obviously, that's not how time works. So, if you do have questions for Jordan, if you do have questions about Shift and want those addressed, I highly recommend going over to the Sword and Key Discord. We do have a chat there for Sword and Tea, and you can pose questions there. There also is a Hit Point Press Discord server as well. So just to shout them out, I have no affiliation contribution whatsoever. I'm a member over there, but yeah, if you want to get your questions answered for anything that we specifically talk about, check out the Sword and Key Discord, and you can post questions there. I'll make sure that Jordan sees them. For everything else, again, my name is Derek, use he, him pronouns. I will be your host for this. This is a Sword and Key stream, so you can find all of Sword and Key's links at beacons.ai/Sword and Key. You can find all of our socials. Blue Sky and Instagram are the primary ones. Again, links to the Discord are there as well. We do have links to some of our charitable organizations, so you're looking to put money towards a great cause, even some pallies to tip our cast and crew for some games. We also have links to our discount codes. We have a number of fantastic discount codes from some fantastic affiliates like Eldritch Foundry, who make custom minis no matter how weird and wild and normal and mild your TTRPG character might be. You can use code Sword and Key for 10% off your first purchase. We also have an affiliate link. If you are inclined to doing 3D printing, you can get a 3-month subscription for unlimited STL files for only $19.99. It's a pretty good deal. We also are affiliates with Long Dog Dice, Jen, with Long Dog Dice incredible dice sets, including a special dice set made just for this channel, just for a specific show on this channel. You can pre-order that set of dice. They're the Horizons Call dice. You can even get the Sword and Key logo on the D6. It's pretty cool. If you're getting your perfect dice set from Long Dog Dice, use code Sword and Key for 10% off your first purchase. And topically to what we're talking about today, we're affiliates with Hit Point Press, the same Hit Point Press that's putting out Shift, and also things like Humblewood and Islands of Sina Una, Animated Spell Cards, the Big Bad Villains, lots of really great stuff from them. So use our affiliate link if you're going to be getting any of their amazing products. All that said, let's talk about Shift and talk about you, Jordan, yourself. So before we get into the game and everything that makes it amazing, I'd like to know a little bit more about you. So what I typically ask my guests is, how did you start with TTRPGs? What's been your journey in life, and then how did that bring you to writing TTRPGs?
Well, I'm an elder millennial, so I grew up in the 90s, and the first thing that really hit home as far as like the role-playing kind of experience was the board game Hero Quest. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I remember I still have my copy from when I was 11, and I remember the day that I got it. I wanted it real bad, and that was where the beginning of sort of the idea of telling stories with your friends and cooperative games and things like that kind of got onto my radar. A couple of years after that, I had a cousin who he had just turned 20, or he was in his very early 20s, and he was at that stage where he was getting rid of all of the nerdy kid stuff that he had when he was younger. And I guess I was sitting on the floor at some family gathering, and he dumped all of his Advanced Dungeons Dragons books in front of me and said something like, "You look like you'd like these." which at the time I maybe was a backhanded compliment. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
as a 12-year-old, I was very keen to get access to this, and I read them religiously, and I would phone him weekly to ask for rules explanations, and he would never reply. Eric, if you're listening, I still have never forgiven you. But we still tried, and that was sort of where I dove into it. It ended up being we invented LARPing, not knowing what it was a lot of the time because we were kids, and there was a lot of like foam swords and toilet paper tube magic missiles and stuff. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's sort of where it started, and I just became obsessed with the idea of them. And for a long time, that's really what I had was the idea of them, and a lot less the playing of them. I think is a pretty common experience for folks.
Hmm.
But yeah, I would say uh, fifth edition D&D is where I really dove back into it regularly. I ended up having regular groups, and so it was right around what was that 2014 or whatever when that started happening, and then the pandemic. I mean, really exploded. We needed things to do. I was a game master, and yeah, and somewhere in there, I started working for Hit Point Press, and it was for other things. But then we branched off into the D&D world, and now I suddenly am a writer of RPGs, whereas I used to just be an admirer and player. So it can happen.
It's
It can
wild
happen
how
to
that
you.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad our journeys seem relatively similar. I also had a cousin that just one Christmas was like, "Oh, all these like original Star Wars toys, like the original ones from when they were coming out in, 70s and 80s. I don't want these anymore. Do you want these?" And it was like the original like Millennium Falcon like box that they would all come in and everything.
Oh wow.
I was like, "Yeah, yeah, sure." And massive loss on that one, Andy. So
Yeah,
shout out
yeah. I
to
was gonna
Eric and
say.
Andy on that one. Um, that's okay. So, where did you start with Hit Point Press? So you said it was kind of was this almost snap to like fast forward sort of thing where you went
Yeah.
from just kind of like the interest to the playing and then
I am
working for Hit
bad
Point
with
Press.
time, but I'd say it was around 2016 or 2017 that I needed work. I've been friends with Rico, who is the CEO and the founder, I guess, of the company. But he and I have been friends for a long time through me working at a local comic book shop here in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and him coming in to play Magic cards. And one holiday, he decided, because this is how his brain works, he decided to start a business basically while he had a million other things to do, making tokens. It started with him wanting to make like magic tokens, things that you can use to improve your game or whatever,
Sure.
and beautify your game or what have you. He wanted to make them as gifts, and then he eventually started a small. He had a lot of friends with artists in the business, and he just decided to make a small kind of Shopify site that was selling tokens and creating them. And that holiday, it really boomed, and he needed someone to come in and help fulfill orders. And so I was looking for work. I had posted on Facebook or whatever that I was looking for work, and so he brought me in to do that. And then within a few months, I'm an animator by trade. Like that's what I did in college and illustrations and stuff. So eventually I started kind of creating my own tokens for him and animating some tokens once he developed the animated token thing. And then one day he just turned around and he said, we're doing well, but we got to expand the product line. And he said, do you have any ideas? And the open license for fifth edition had just hit the market maybe a week or so before.
Hmm.
And I said, well, I need reference cards because I'm tired of flipping through the monster manual. And so, you know, I'd love to make those. And if other people want them, then that's great. And that led to our first Kickstarter. I illustrated those first sets myself. They're still sort of floating around out there. Interesting to look back on, almost a decade later. But
Yeah,
yeah, it started there. And then the next one was our animated spell cards, which are like lenticular cards. You tilt
they're
them
really
and they
cool.
show the spell moving around. Yeah, and that was huge. And then Humblewood, our first campaign setting, and it's just been up and up after since that. But it all started just because he needed someone to put stuff into envelopes, and I've stopped stuffing envelopes for a few years now, thankfully. But yeah, it's the greatest job I've ever had. I'm very lucky.
Really moving up in the world.
Mm,
And all that just from the hand-me-downs of nerddom, isn't it's incredible how
yeah,
these things we get. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, That's great because I think Hit Point Press absolutely is like one of those household names for the like you play D&D and you want more than just what Wizards is putting out for $50, every couple of months.
Hmm.
Why don't you check out Hit Point Press? Like it's become this like synonymous thing for I mean I anybody I know knows what Humblewood is. I've run Humblewood games. I love Humblewood.
That's
And
great.
then, all of the other products that they put out, it's so cool. So I'm really excited about Shift then, because it's now this original thing. It's got a whole lot of energy to it, which I think is really cool. So I really want to talk about the game today. So, um, Shift does have some free downloads that you can check out on Hit Point Press's website right now. There is the main rule book, and then there is also let's see, that was from the free RPG
Yeah,
day
the newest
2025.
thing is our free RPG Day booklet, which gives you kind
Yeah,
of intro, quick start rules. And then, sorry, my cat's climbing the back of my chair. She knows I'm
you're all
busy.
good.
And then like a mini World Spark, which is kind of like a mini setting, micro setting, and an adventure encounter to go along with it. That was our free RPG Day release. That's the most up to date kind of thing. It gives you
Mhm.
everything you need to kind of get started. And yeah, shiftrpg.com or Hit Point Press's site will get you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing that you can also get Dorado Station, which is the sci-fi western
That's
World Spark,
that's the
and
World
then
Spark. Yep.
and then Maelstrom, Curse of the Albatross, which is pretty cool. So all that's available right now, and again, the Kickstarter is currently live for the big bulk of it. That's very exciting. For folks who might be hearing about Shift for the first time, or for folks who might be, like looking at it for the first time, what's the elevator pitch that you give for Shift?
Well, Shift is a setting agnostic system. So the idea is baked into the gameplay of the rules, the core rules of it, is also customizing the rules to the world you want to play in. So we're going to provide. It comes with some of these shift worlds, or the world sparks we call them. So they have jumping off points and ideas to pull from, but it also is a guide to taking your favorite book that you've always wanted to play in, or this idea that you've had for a setting that maybe other systems are too complicated from, or you would have to like really tear D&D apart to make it work. Whereas Shift is a game. The way I like to put it is it's a game that turns everyone at the table into game designers. It makes it very easy to come up with new things, and so on the fly, if your world needs something new, you can quickly build it and add it because it's all very built around this very simple building block. And yeah, so it's a game. It's a game where you build the system to fit your world, and then you can play in any world that you like. Um, that was our goal with it because I want to write new worlds that aren't necessarily tied to Dungeons and Dragons as well, and this gives us this new way of doing that. So we wanted this is going to be my Bible when this Kickstarter does well. I will be using that as my guide to build my own things, and so we wanted to give that as sort of the core product so that people are building things for it right away as well. That'd be a
It
long
is.
elevator ride, but
No, it's
yeah.
hey, that's okay. We're going to the top floor.
Hmm.
That's a really cool concept to have, setting agnostic, but to provide this rule system that can be applied in so many different ways. And I also really want to shout out the artwork. I mean, Hit Point Press always has some really great art, but the artwork for this, reflecting, I mean, high fantasy and sci-fi and even like oceanic adventures and just all these little things, and it's so subtle at first, but you realize like the full potential of the game just by looking at it before you even take this deep dive into it. So what was one of the main inspirations for Shift? You said you really wanted to kind of like diversify away from D&D. Um, were there any like cultural touchstones you were looking for when it came to the like the generation of this game, or for we noticed you have spoken, so we will lower your hand. Hold on. Give me 1 second here. Apparently, with the update, if I raise my hand, it shows that I have interest in something. So I need to unclick recognize hand gestures, which is now a new thing with Zoom. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, that's
You,
probably great. I'm glad we're no,
you're in
that was
charge
I
here. You
also
don't
noticed.
need to put up your hand, I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah, I apparently talking with my hands is not something I
Mm.
can do now, but yeah, it's the little heart react thing. It now has new recognized hand gestures, so that's fun. Cool. Okay, let me go back. So when it comes to the creation of Shift, any inspirations that you might have had from like pop culture? What was the big impetus to make Shift? Like again, I know you said you were diversifying away from D&D. So what was the primary goal? And then again, was there any like media that really inspired this concept more than anything else?
Yeah, it's a bit complicated to answer that because again, it doesn't have a setting attached to it. But like
Right.
the thing that inspired it was the dice mechanic, the shifting dice, the namesake of the game. My co-designer Graham, while he was still working at Hit Point Press, he moved on to newer and exciting things. But he had come to me with this dice mechanic in our off hours and asked me if there was like anything to it. And I gave him some ideas for tooling it around, and we came up with the shift system, the shifting dice system that we have now. Um, and then we started thinking about settings that could fit it, fit the mechanics, because in shift you roll die, you have traits that have a die assigned to them, and when you want to do something, you roll one or two of your traits. You roll the dice associated with it, and if you roll the highest result on the die, so let's say you have a D8 and something, you roll an 8, that the shifting comes in where the die gets worse. It shifts down to the next worst die, which in the case of our game is reversed. It goes from D8 to D10 to D12.
Yeah.
So D4 is the best one. And we're trying to think of sort of worlds that could fit that mechanic, and that's where we came up with Maelstrom, which is heavily inspired by things like the Lighthouse. Graham and I had just watched it together recently, and we were like, we need to make some horrifying aquatic East Coast aquatic nightmare game. So that was the world that we used to playtest the earliest forms of the game. And then mechanically, like the idea for me, I grew up on SNES and JRPGs and stuff, and like boss monsters with multiple stages and things like that. So once you get into like learning about how adversary as monsters are made for the game, you can kind of see where that was a big influence on it, where monsters are made up of different parts that you can go after specifically, narratively or mechanically. And it's a game where if you are fighting a dragon and you disable the dragon's wings, it's a very tangible thing. You can target them, take them out, and now the dragon can't fly anymore. So JRPG or other games that had like Donkey Kong Country has one of my favorite games that got multiple stage boss battles and stuff like that.
Hmm.
The idea of that kind of thing really kind of drove the design after that. Um, and then other RPGs that there's a tinge of Fate in there. Obviously, Fate is very much kind of your classic settingless RPG that lets you build things, but we wanted something that was a little simpler, a little bit easier to do on the fly at the table. But yeah, we the game itself is not tooled. It does well with horror, but it can easily do Saturday morning cartoon vibes where things are very fast and you bounce back from danger quickly. So there isn't really a specific kind of like cultural touchstone for the vibes of it, other than JRPGs and other game systems. So
I think what's really cool about it is it does have that level of versatility, like you were mentioning, and that level of versatility with storytelling. Like I also appreciate a good multi-tier boss battle. That's something that always bugged me a little bit is you have especially in D&D, is you have sometimes these very complex monsters that feel like they should have stages to them. It feels like, oh, I should be able to like I'm fighting a basilisk. Why can't I target its eyes? Why is there nothing like
mhm.
for that specifically? Why can't I, hobble the troll or whatever else? So to allow for that, but I think also with that versatility, then allow for the interchangeability of worlds,
Mhm.
which is something we were actually discussing relatively recently. Is you can make a character it feels like the rule set can transition over from one setting to another. And I think that's the art on the cover kind of is very evocative of
Hmm.
that, of the sci-fi character reaching out to the high fantasy character. And that yeah, there's the two-person video game that I can't remember. I think it's called Two Worlds or something like that. That has the one fantasy character, one sci-fi, like almost
Hmm.
working in tandem, and it has almost that sort of feel to it with the artwork.
Yeah.
Um, you were talking about the shift dice system, which is kind of what this is all based around, which again I think is very interesting because it does work in reverse and to what people would mostly assume. And at first I was like, wait, how? But I really love that the the basic rule set, the rule book makes it very clear. It's about odds. And I thought that's a really interesting take on it. So to the point of dice for this game, you were saying we need D4 through D12. Is that right?
That's right. And
Okay.
optimally two sets of that and in
Okay.
different colors. That'll just
Okay.
make your life a little easier, but not necessary.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, D4 through D12. So we're looking to get the highest number. So a D4 having a 25% chance as opposed to the
The
1 in
reverse.
12
You
chance.
you you
Yeah.
want a 1, 2, or 3 on any of
Oh,
the
I see.
die.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
The
So 4
highest
being the
result. Yeah, the highest result is sort of your critical failure. That's what shifts the die down. Again,
gotcha.
it takes a moment to kind of get your brain into gear when you're playing because like high numbers are bad, one is a critical
Right.
success,
Yeah.
but it flows. I have only had a handful of people kind of push back against it a little bit, and I think, well, if you're enjoying the system overall, it'll smooth over very easily. But yeah, it's a mathless game. To your comment on like how it's about odds, you don't have to add any numbers in. There's no
Yeah.
bonuses or anything like that. It's really just keeping track of that die going up and down. Um, yeah.
Well, there's a wonderful infographic just in case that's included that shows you literally the span of numbers. So that's always really helpful as well. And I do like games or at least systems that subvert that expectation. There's the whole Chaosium, the Call of Cthulhu, where you're looking to get the lowest percentage instead of the highest percentage.
Mhm.
I think that's great as well. But I think this is a really unique sort of take on things that will again kind of subvert and maybe even may take a second for players as they roll a 1 on the d4 and they go, oh wait, no, actually that's great, okay, perfect. I,
We
I
like
I
to
think
joke
that's,
that it's a game for people with bad luck because if you
yeah,
are
absolutely.
infamously rolling ones and low dice all the time, and that if it manages to carry over to your shift campaigns, you're going to be doing very well in our game. So yeah, ones are good in shift, and we're very proud of that. So
Yeah, if you have a problem player who you think has loaded dice at your game, this is the perfect way to find them.
mhm.
uh it's a really fun system. So you said that this was kind of the system almost came before like the overall concept for shift, and then the stories were kind of based out of that. So when it comes to the shift system itself, when we're talking about role play, combat, adventure, exploration, all the typical stuff that goes into a typical TTRPG game, mechanically, how does that work? Is it all based off of success, failure, and anything else, or what does gameplay typically look like?
uh, so it's built to be familiar as far as sort of the flow of things. You know, you have periods where you're role playing and wandering around and investigating and doing whatever your story needs. And then there are encounters, which is where you go more to a moment to moment kind of thing. Uh, where it starts to feel a bit different, I suppose, is during those encounters. Monster stat blocks, the sort of standard way to play is that they're out on the table for people to see, or you can discover them as you play, which will be an interesting thing for folks. We want you to understand what your options are when you're going up against a monster, so you get to see its parts, like to understand, oh, it's got wings, it's got claws, it breathes flame, or whatever. And so players are able to strategize a little more, decide what to take to get rid of, and um, but as far as sort of mechanically how you resolve things, your character is built out of 3 core traits, which depending on your setting you can rename or modify or add more or less, and there's guides in the core rules for that. But the base rules offer up body, mind, and soul. your physical strength or your dexterousness or whatever with body. Mind is your how sharp you are at recalling things or being focused on stuff. And then soul is your connection to other living things or sentient things. And you assign a few dice at character creation into that. One is your better one is your worst one, standard kind of stuff. And then you've got a couple of focus traits, which you can borrow from ideas in the world sparks. There'll be 10. There's 5 different world sparks in the book, and there'll be 10 focus traits options for each one. But they're very simple to create. This is where the game design kind of comes in right away. Players come up with a concept first and can just sort of come up with their focus traits, which could represent for the D&D crowd. They could represent your class, or they could represent your background, or they could represent a cool piece of equipment, or an ally like a dog or a wolf or something like that. But if you come up with your concept first, let's say you want to make Han Solo, you can just pick a couple of focus traits that you think cover his skills. So it could be like smuggler is one of them, and crack shot is the other one because he's really good with his gun. And those are your traits. Your character's pretty much done at that point. You'll assign a couple of dice, and then if you want to do anything, you will choose one of your core traits, always choosing one of those, body, mind, and soul. And then optionally, if you have a focus trait that applies, you're going to roll that alongside with it. So he wants to shoot Greedo first. He probably roll his body and that crack shot to hit Greedo with it. And all you need is one success on either of the dice, and the whole thing succeeds. So that does help overall with your odds. What's interesting about the game, and where it isn't just a full success and fail like a binary kind of setup, is that you might succeed on one die but shift down on the other. That's a success overall. You get what you want. You hit Greedo, but you also maybe your gun runs out of some ammunition, or you wear out your body trait a little bit and you get sort of worn down. And you can end up with these really interesting narrative things where you paid a bit of a price to get what you needed, which, common in the indie RPG scene to have sort of these mitigated down the middle successes, like give and take kind of successes. But it really translates directly to things on your character sheet and your character changing and developing and stuff during the game. So yeah, that's the core mechanic. And as you go into campaign modes, you add new focus traits or improve the dice that are attached to them, learn new things to do. There's also things called techniques, which are maybe more familiar as like feats, like comparable to feats in D&D. They give you a bit more of a mechanical bonus, like they might heal you or give you some kind of advantage temporarily, that kind of thing. But that's the main flow of the game. It's taking these action rolls and interacting with other things, and you're targeting other things' traits. So everything is, if you learn how to build a character, you basically have also learned how to build a monster. And you can, if you're going after that monster, you're picking one of its traits, and if you successfully roll, you get a success on your action roll, then that monster's trait is going to shift down. You're kind of poking at it and making it weaker. And again, you get these dynamic situations where you get to see the results of hitting it in its wings. Even if you don't get rid of those wings completely, you're weakening them. And now the next time it tries to fly, it's not going to be as good at it, right? That's in my mind, a hugely interesting and big strength of the game, which is that you get to feel the results of your actions from action to action, with very little difficulty curve on understanding how it all works. So yeah,
that's really cool. I like the wear and tear aspect of it, that the more you do, the more it might wear on your character, but also they're going to improve in some ways. But also combat isn't just hit, deplete health. It actually does have those direct outcomes. I think that's really cool. I always really appreciate that in games. So you also mentioned like the ease of access, not only for players but for the game runners as well, to build monsters and to put them together using these core 3 skills. Out of curiosity, when it comes to the potential for PvP, because it sounds like if you're targeting a monster, there is a set number that you're looking to get success, and if you get that, then you're depleting their half of it. When you have potentially a roll-off between 2 players, what does that look like? How does success work in that scenario?
I think that like any good game that starts with a conversation between the players, that's a higher level of thinking of what your table wants when it comes to PvP. Um, there's a preference, I think in most systems for you to um, talk it out. Like if instead or role play it out. Like if your character's upset at someone else's character, then and they want to slug them or whatever, it's better to kind of maybe role play that than to roll. But
For sure.
mechanically, a character sheet and a adversary stat block are very similar. There are differences, but ultimately they're just a pile of traits that a bag of abilities that you can target. So
Hmm.
going after each other, I would say go into an encounter like normal and figure out who acts first before the other. We have our version of initiative, which is rolling one of your core traits, and if it's a success, you're acting before the adversaries, and if you fail that roll, you act after.
Yeah.
And you do it. You re-roll like, at the beginning of each round of an encounter, so it's dynamically changing from where you're acting. So I would say you would treat one of the you would treat the aggressor maybe in the situation as the adversary, and then have the other person roll to find out if they get the jump on them or not. Um,
Yeah, I'm
and
thinking even less than like actual fighting, but more just like contested rules. They'd say they're, having a beer chugging contest or doing a
sure,
race, and it's sort of just like I'm going to see if I can outdo you in this thing. But it definitely sounds like very similar concept of we're just going to see who wears down the fastest.
that's right. Yeah, and yeah, it's a bit of a gambling game in a way because
Yeah.
every one of your stats is a set of resources that you gamble every time you roll, right? And so it's a real system to encourage GMs to say yes to players, because as long as they're gambling some of their dice, they're risking something bad happening, and so it encourages the GM to say yes, because why not? They're trading something away for it potentially, and so in that case, you could set a goal. The first person who shifts down their die, or who rolls a critical failure on their body stat because they're chugging those beers, they could they win, they lose the fight or whatever. Another thing that you can do is inspired by things like Blades in the Dark and the clocks from Blades in the Dark, if you're familiar with those. You can create traits that are sort of outside of an encounter, but they represent some goal that you're trying to achieve. And so you could have the drinking contest like a race, where each of them has their own trait that's like finish the boot of beer or whatever with a die associated with it, and they're taking actions to like drain that boot. And the first person who exhausts the boot, a trait exhausts when it gets to a D12 and has to shift down again. You kind of the trait either goes away or you lose access to it for a little bit. So you could represent. They could go back and forth taking actions, chipping away at this drinking contest until someone finishes it and wins the round. Again, you're asking for things that maybe we haven't fully detailed in the core
For
rules,
sure.
but I'm also kind of inventing them very simply on the fly, and that is in the core rules. Is like, can you make it a trait? Can you create a trait and a die result to solve your problem? And the answer is usually yes. And then there's no referencing the book. You're off to the races. So this is
I,
like in real time what I would be doing at the table to figure out how this would work for our table. So
Yeah, I
uh,
mean, I appreciate the play testing in real time.
yeah,
This is great. Yeah, I think that shows the beauty of this game is that you can quickly come up with those answers. I think this reading through this, especially as somebody who GMs quite a bit, it definitely had the feel of, oh, I don't need to reference a rule page or memorize this. I can just make a judgment call with structure and feel good about it instead of being like, oh, I really hope that I didn't forget how like fall damage or shoving or grappling or anything else works. I also want to say I appreciate the beer fest reference. We don't get enough of those. So with the design of Shift in general, we have a lot of versatility for the game. We have a lot of ability to play, like you were saying, any variety. of games and a couple of modules that have already been put out. A pretty easy to pick up rule system as well for people that might be coming to TTRPGs for the first time. Um, is is this so? This definitely seems like, because it has the monsters and or the adversaries and then the players themselves. It definitely feels like a game that relies on a GM. Although, is there potential for this being a GM-less game? It also seems like it might have that possibility as well.
The the core rules aren't going to ship with solo rules per se, but they're definitely on our list of like ways to expand it because we have a very bustling Discord that's specifically for Shift, which you can check out linked everywhere at shiftrpg.com and stuff. I highly recommend joining. Um, Even if you're not able to back the Kickstarter right now, there will be tons of stuff that you'll be able to like try the game out there and things. But we've got a key group of people designing new games and ways to use the mechanics, and not just worlds, but like warping and twisting and trying to break the mechanics in different ways. And solo gaming has come up a few times because you roll the die. You can roll a die to get a result, and then there's a chance that the die will change um, as you're going, which gives you an organic solo kind of experience. You could have a trait that represents a storm that's going on, and you could roll that every round or whatever to see what the storm does. On a success, the storm hits you or damages your ship, but on a critical failure, when the storm rolls its highest result, it shifts down, and slowly the storm will wane and go away. And that's all happening. That's all happening without necessarily GM interference. Um, as a GM, you can, and as players as well, you can voluntarily shift a die down to get an automatic success on something, and so you kind of lose maybe that where the storm feels more active or more dramatic timing for things. You might lose a little bit of that, at a base level, just using shift as is. But I'm sure like our plan is I would love to develop a sort of solo rule set for it so that there's options there. But through the basic shifting dice mechanic, it's got a built-in way for things to happen without any humans having to make the decision. And that's a big plus, I think. I think it adds a lot to a GM full game of Shift, but a GM-less game is definitely something potentially possible. Or we've seen people taking that dice mechanic and sort of grafting it onto other games, just to represent a timer or whatever. Which if that happens, if they get even like an ounce of that Blades in the Dark like clock use across all kinds of other games, I'd be thrilled. To someone tore something out of our game and used it with something alongside something else. I've used it in other games, so I'd be happy for other people to do so.
I think that's what's really cool is that Shift is streamlined enough that it is more than capable of carrying an entire game or series of games on its shoulders. And again, setting agnostic, you can play any number of games. You can play superhero games or again, high seas adventures, westerns, anything. Or like you were saying, it could be used supplementally for when you do encounter those situations of, oh man, I don't have a rule for this, and then it is again chunky enough that it can support, like, fill in that puzzle
Mm-hmm.
piece. I think that's really cool. Um, so the rule set on its own, absolutely fantastic and is available to download. But as well as in addition to that, there are a couple of downloads you can get for some modules. And again, that is Dorado Station and Maelstrom. I see your name attached to both of these, so I definitely wanted to ask you about these a little bit as well as folks who might be coming to this for the first time. This is what they're going to be looking at. So for these two, for Dorado Station and for Maelstrom, you talked a little bit about Maelstrom being inspired by The Lighthouse. Great movie. For Dorado Station and Maelstrom together, what was kind of the big push for like these two? Anything that you necessarily want to know about these two? Having read through them, they're great. Just wondered if there were any notes you wanted to make for either of these.
Well, like Maelstrom, as I said, was our playtest setting. And again, it was just something that appealed to me and Graham. Maelstrom is on our short list of worlds to develop if Shift does really well. It is done. It's the source of one of our first actual plays. Someone ran a Maelstrom game. We'll have links to that, I think, on the Kickstarter page as well, potentially. And that's just a world that we liked and wanted to develop, and it was easier to kind of play test something when you had a setting to go along with it. And then Dorado Station is one of 5 shift worlds that we commissioned for the core rules, to give us a broad array of world sparks to kind of inspire people in the kind of genres that we thought would be the most appealing in a core thing. It's one thing to provide you all the ways to build your a world and a system for yourself, but that's not everyone's cup of tea, right? So we wanted to make sure that there was at least bite-sized settings that you could rip off or modify or learn from at least. So Dorado Station is the sci-fi one, and then there's also a horror one that will be in there separate from Maelstrom. That is sort of like you're trapped in a B movie, like a 1950s Hammer horror kind of movie.
Hmm.
Um, and then there is a superhero setting, very kind of optimistic, hopeful kind of superhero setting. Um, then horror, sci-fi. There's a fantasy setting, kind of
Hmm.
post-apocalyptic Game of Thrones. You could play as a dragon or a dragon knight in it. And you're kind of the last of humanity's hope kind of deal. And then there's a romance setting that's sort of inspired by things like Bridgerton and stuff. And that one I think really pushes and shows sort of what Shift can do, because the game is not about enacting violence on other people. It's not what those worlds are about. It's about social situations, and it takes the encounter rules and expands on, well, what is an encounter if it's not a fight and instead is a heated discussion or a ball where you're trying to make a good impression on people. And the
Hmm.
adversaries you're up against are snooty people in fancy dress, or one of the adversaries, one of the monsters in that setting is literally called the rumor mill, where you literally are going up against all the nasty things that people are saying against you, and you're taking actions to try and change people's minds about who you are, you know? Um, and so we hope that those 5 settings give you enough they show off different parts of Shift, but then also give you enough to jump off from. So if you want to maybe you want to use Shift to run Star Wars, you've got some sci-fi ideas that you can borrow from, so that you're not worrying about inventing everything from whole cloth.
Yeah.
Um, and Dorado Station was just we've done so much fantasy things because we're a D&D, fifth edition kind of company, and so we just wanted to make sure that there was something that wasn't fantasy out there. So we settled on the sci-fi, and that Dorado Station has kind of a Borderlands or the Outer Worlds kind of tongue-in-cheek, you know,
Hmm.
isn't capitalism hilariously awful kind of thing. Um, and we've been playing that a lot at convention, playing in that world a lot in the conventions, and I've had a lot of fun. And
It is very fun. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really cool that you have had the opportunity to showcase again how versatile Shift is, even with the Bridgerton, the romance setting. I think that's very funny because yeah, I think a lot of people think like, oh, they've been doing D&D for so long, it's all going to be combat stuff. It's just a combat simulator. But to make it a social simulator as well is, I think, something that a lot of people will find very refreshing, and even in something like Dorado Station, which does have the implications of like, yeah, the futuristic mega capitalism and the hellscape of that, and the weird sand monsters that are on the front and everything. It's still a much deeper story than that, and has the potential for so much with such a streamlined rule set. So I highly recommend that folks check out Dorado Station. It is that Western sci-fi, that chocolate and peanut butter that go together oh so well. Like you were saying, lots of cultural touchstones for that. Firefly is another big one as
Mhm.
well, and then Maelstrom, which is great name, and that has the like you were saying, kind of that East Coast oceanic eldritch horror sort of vibe to it, which is pretty great.
Yeah, the short pitch on that is that at some point in human history, maybe it could be another world, doesn't matter. The sun got swallowed by the sea, and now everything is dark. And the only safe places are places that are protected by the lights of lighthouses. And lighthouse keepers have become these sort of they take on the burden of keep not just keeping the light on literally like but literally keeping people safe, and they become these like living lighthouses that walk around, and it's got big inspirations from like BioShock and that kind of stuff. We have our homage to the Big Daddy in the form of the Anchor, who is sort of the setting's paladin, but they're someone who has decided to live inside of a big diving suit permanently. And they're scientists and experts on the water, on the ocean, but they also are paranoid of everything and never want to leave their suit. So it's really fun. I really hope when this Kickstarter does really well, I'm really hoping that we get to develop it a lot more, because we have a bunch of notes and a bunch of ideas for it, and people really love it. So yeah, check out. It's older. Some of the rules in it are a little bit out of date, but the setting and the art in it is very fun. So
It is. If for no other reason, check it out just for the image of the ink hound. I'm not going to describe it. You're going to need to look at it, and you'll enjoy the nightmares you get from it. It's pretty awful. It's amazing and awful. Speaking of, the artwork is like I was saying before, Hit Point Press doesn't really miss when it comes to the artwork on stuff. Who are some of the artists that you had collaborating and putting this together?
So the cover art is done by our good friend Justin Chan. He helped on a few animated spells. He helped a lot on our Hecna art. He has a bit more of a cartoony style, cartoony illustrative style. So he's helped on a lot of those projects. But the main cover is from Justin Chan, and the little rabbit. You can see him right here. Little pink rabbit. That's Risky, named after one of the mechanics in the game. Justin helped develop the look of that, sort of our mascot for Shift. And Risky is all the way through the book, sort of teaching you and guiding you on the different rules. And he's also visiting all of the worlds. You can see that there's a Risky trapped in some cosmic horror dimension here.
Yeah, Risky's having the best time and the worst time.
Yeah, luckily there's lots of Riskies, and they're all kind of helping each other out. And then our alternate cover art, which I think we'll be able to show you, is a sort of deluxe cover. Same content inside, but that's done by an artist named Elliot Bourriot, who is this is the first time I think we've worked with them. Maybe on our Big Bads project, we had different artists for each Big Bad, so I may have forgotten if they had touched a project before. But for that, we wanted something that again showed the multiple worlds kind of vibe, but instead it's like this shattering glass and all these different reflections of different things. And you can see Risky there, but they're in different styles and different things, and it's a really really fun piece. And then the interiors, Justin Chan did a few, and then we also had an assist from Antonio D'Amico, who you would know maybe from YouTube as Pointy Hat. He worked with us for a little bit. Yeah, he's great, and he did a lot of he took on the Justin Chan's art style and did a lot more of the interiors of things. And then we've got 5 unique art pieces for each of the 5 different settings that are done by different people, that are all really amazing, and they're all unique. Borrowing a bit from that Big Bad's philosophy, we wanted to make sure that each world had a unique look, and so the romance art looks very different from the sci-fi art, which looks very different from the comic book art. We got a person experienced in making kind of comic book style art to do the comic book cover, the comic or the superhero setting cover. So I call them cover. There's spreads inside of the book. But yeah, I think it's a smaller book, and we're focusing a lot more on graphic design and clarity of that stuff. So maybe, don't go into it thinking that it's like a Humblewood level of art, where it's overflowing from every page, but the stuff that's in there is so much fun. And we're really people already love Risky. So hopefully, he'll get us most of the way there. I think just being a cute rabbit, I think that'll help. So
I'd say great mascot. I'm glad you said the name because I was going to ask. But I also really love the risky Easter eggs, which I'm
mm,
not sure if the mix risky and Easter Bunny, but even on the Dorado station cover, there's a little risky
yeah,
like bobblehead. I think that's kind of hidden there.
there's a die hidden in each one, a different
Yes,
die
knows
hidden
that
in each
too.
one, and then there's a risky hidden in every each one too. Yeah, we
That's pretty
wanted
good.
again that continuity, right? So.
Yeah, great credit to the artists on those. Um, who were some other folks that you might want to shout out for helping make this project a reality?
Graham Fotheringham is my fellow game designer. His name is right up there with mine as far as the core basic rules, the play testing of it all. I kind of took it to the finish line as he moved on to work on in video games and do some other things, but he's been I check in with him regularly on stuff like that. Um, that's the big team. I don't want to leave anybody out, but we've been really keeping it kind of close together.
Hmm.
Uh, Big thanks to our editors, to our consultant on like the what's the term? Not accessibility consultant, but someone making sure that the content isn't offensive in any way. When
Oh
you're
yeah,
spanning 5 different settings, you want to make sure that you're not, being culturally or racially insensitive to anything.
yeah,
Uh,
sensitivity reader. Yeah,
Sensitivity reader, that's the one.
yeah,
Yes, thank you. Yes, unfortunately, their names are all escaping me, but they're all credited on the Kickstarter page. So please go and give them a round of applause.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you've got a great team at Hit Point Press, and the credits for each of the books lists a number of fantastic folks in there. Um, little biased, but personal favorite of ours, Sebastian Yue, who was
yes,
recently
of
featured on
course.
this show not that long ago. Yeah,
I'm only here
um,
because of Sebastian, so I owe them greatly. They've been setting me up with phone calls and interviews and podcasts to fill my time all through the Kickstarter. So they are an excellent manager. They're basically my manager right now. So
okay.
I really appreciate them very much. So,
No,
and
they're amazing.
a great game designer unto themselves
Absolutely.
as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it seems like a really great team at a Hit Point Press. Um, Jordan, for Shift, for anything that I might have missed, is there anything else that you might want to spotlight about this game, or anything else that we didn't cover today?
I think I'd just like to really suggest to anyone who's interested, um, but who are curious but maybe aren't ready to necessarily back it, jump in the Discord. We've got all through the Kickstarter, we've got games running on the weekends, and then we do monthly games on the weekends. We've got some excellent GMs who have kind of grown with the system as we've developed it. They get access to stuff that other people don't. And I really do. I think that the Discord and the community that the the second big like flag tentpole or whatever that we're really hoping for Shift is the community piece. A big inspiration on that side is like Tuesday Night Games and Mothership. They've
Hmm.
really fostered like an amazing third party place, and part of the Kickstarter, the first stretch goal I believe is an open gaming is the open gaming license for Shift, and uh, for all the same reasons that it's good for D&D, it'll be good for us because it'll mean more things going out. But I really encourage people to come and join the Discord. It's hopping. There's lots of new games designs being created, and worlds being built, and also a great place to ask questions. Either you'll get an answer from me or Sebastian or any number of people who are, I don't know what we're going to call the fans of Shift, but Shift heads, I guess, for now. Yeah, it's really like a cool place, and it's the best place to kind of get more information about it. Even if you have no experience with RPGs whatsoever, I think that you would find that it's an easy and friendly place to jump in. So that's just, I'd really like to reinforce that. Come and hang out with me there. You can tag me and I will answer questions. I'm not that famous yet, so yeah, check out the Discord and the Kickstarter, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so check out website, Discord, Kickstarter, download a copy, check out there is as of the time of the release, less than a week left to back the Kickstarter, so do not wait on that. Um, Jordan, for anyone that might be coming to Shift for the first time, what's one piece of advice that you would offer for people who are sitting down to play for the first time?
If you're playing for the first time, um, is it someone who knows RPGs or is it someone coming to RPGs from
It,
scratch?
it could be literally anybody, and it could be as simple as just like have fun. But it is one of those streamlined systems, so I'm not worried
Sure.
about anybody like knowing rules. Just when you were making this, what was the ultimate goal that you were looking for folks to play this?
If you're sitting down to play a shift game and you have the idea of the world and things like that, I would say forget about the rules. Just come up with a character that you want to play. Worry about that. If you have time to prep and you're worried about not knowing how things work, don't worry about it. Just think about you're playing in say a Dorado Station game in our Discord. You know that it's a sci-fi, your miners and whatever. Think of Firefly. Think of context things like cultural things that you would want to play, and come up with your character. The shift game will fall into place as far as the rules. You don't need to worry about, oh, what if I choose something that's not an option? The opposite. You're not looking at a list of things. You don't need to. You come up with what you want to play, and then shift will fill in the gaps. And so, yeah, play the character that you want to play. Uh, don't worry about the rules. They don't matter that much. I know
Great
that's
advice.
maybe horrible marketing, but
No, I think
but
that's great
yeah.
for a lot of games that do involve so much crunch, that do put so much weight on the rules. I think it is very refreshing to have a game that's like, you know what, they're guidelines. It's fun. Have fun
Mhm.
is really great. I appreciate that.
I did think of something that
Yeah, please.
I realized. Yeah. It's just you mentioned crunch a bunch. That rhymed. That's fun. And
Yeah.
you mentioned crunchier games. I just want to say that for anyone who is part of that world building and also system building that's built into the core rules, are dials to make things a little more complicated or a little more simpler depending on what you want to do. So there is lots of room in it to be a game that's more about resource management and survival, and there are ways to dial it all the way back to that. You don't need to keep track of your life between sessions. I just wanted to make sure that that's put across. It is very simple. The building block of traits and dice are very simple, but there's all these different ways to kind of complicate it in a satisfying way if you want to, or simplify it if you just want to play something really light and fluffy. So I wanted to make sure that was out there too. This is a real game designer's game in the sense that there are so many options in the toolkit.
I love that. It's all about adaptability
Mm-hmm.
for the character, for the gamer, for everybody. That's really cool. Uh, Jordan, for anything that you are able to share, is what comes next? What comes next for Shift, or even potentially for yourself? Any projects that you want to shout out if for the future?
Well, if the Kickstarter when the Kickstarter does well, we'll be spinning off, a little piece of the company to be hopefully developing more stuff for it. A game lives or dies by the content that comes after the core rules come out,
For sure.
and so we have a lot of ideas and a lot of sort of concepts and writers in the wings that are interested in doing things. And then fostering that community, driving content, making sure that it's very clear and concise about how you can use Shift to create your own games and sell them. Because we'll want, again, the mothership model, that's what I'm modeling it on, really want third party stuff to drive a lot of the content. Um, and so that'll be the next big step for me. We'll to put a polished book out, we'll need a little bit more time. And so in
Mhm.
the interim, people selling PDFs and stuff like that, and getting new content out onto Itch or wherever they want to share it. Um, that's going to be the big push for me and Sebastian afterwards. Um, and like obviously, Hitpoint has its other projects still going. We're starting to work on our Patreon for 2026. We're bringing Big Bads back in a maybe with a Humblewood kind of vibe,
Hmm.
bringing some other fun stuff back that people have really loved from other projects, non-Humblewood projects. Um, and I'll put it out there. I would really love to make more Heckness stuff. it's our weirdest setting, and it's not for everybody, but the people who love it so much, and we have some really weird ideas for it, I guess, that I would love to do. So yeah, that'll be like my manifesting for this is if you really love Heckna and you want more, please come and find me. I will make more Heckna for you.
Fair enough. I played a little bit of Heckna. I really enjoyed it. I'm also a big fan of the Griffins book that came out, the Floral Dragon.
Griffins, yep.
Yeah, lots of really great stuff from Hit Point Press. You really can't miss. But Shift being absolutely one of those things. I know at time of recording, the Kickstarter has not gone live just yet. Are you aware of any of the stretch goals or any of the levels that are going to be built into the Kickstarter?
The stretch goals are going to be new Shift world sparks.
Okay.
And we do have some that are going to go into the printed book, and then there'll be digital stretch goals beyond that with uh maybe some familiar hit point press settings potentially getting the shift treatment, which I think would be really fun. And
hmm
then some new stuff that you haven't heard of, potentially even an upgraded Maelstrom, to the more modern, the more up-to-date rule set. So um, it'll just be more content that you can like borrow from and steal and rip off for your games is really what it is.
Very
Um,
cool.
yeah.
As somebody who runs a nautical game, I'm already very into the Maelstrom concept. So yeah, probably good pulling from that. Absolutely. Jordan, again, thank you so very much for joining us and for sharing Shift. We talked about how you can find more about Shift on the Discord, the website, and of course the Kickstarter, which is live for less than a week. Any other links where people can find you or any of the other stuff that you do?
You can find me and Sebastian, mostly Sebastian, because they're younger than me and better at internet. But you can find us on the Shift RPG Blue Sky, which is Shift RPG. And if you're interested in following me on Blue Sky, again, I am getting better at posting, but I will always answer questions on there about design stuff. You can find me on my personal account at Made of Cartoons. Um, but yeah, jump in on the Discord. That's the biggest. Like, if you're really curious about this and you're really interested, the Discord's the place to go. And all those details can be found at shiftrpg.com or hitpointpress.com.
Awesome. Jordan, again, thank you so very much. Thank you to all of you who joined us again. This was a pre-recorded chat. So if you do have any questions about Shift or to Jordan, it sounds like the best place is going to be their Discord. However, if you happen to find yourself already on the Sword and Key Discord or are looking for another Discord to add to your probably long list, you can head over to the Sword and Key Discord. There is a Sword and Key chat there. You're welcome to post your questions there, and I will make sure that they get sent over to Jordan if he doesn't see them right away, and we'll get those questions addressed. But definitely check out the Hit Point Press Discord. Check out the website for Shift, and check out the Kickstarter as well. Thank you again for joining us. This has been Sword and Tea here on Sword and Key. You can find all of Sword and Key's links at beacons.ai/Sword and Key. I would know. I am Dirk Sword. I use he and pronouns. Sword is my real last name. Yes, it's awesome. No, you can't have it. I am the sword half of Sword and Key. So when you are over on our beacons, again, beacons.ai/Sword and Key. Check out our socials up at the top. That's Instagram and Blue Sky. We have Discord there as well. So if you're looking for that Sword and Tea chat, that's the best place for it. As you scroll down, you can see some of our charitable organizations. We have some evergreen ones like Palestine Children's Relief Fund and Canada Campaigns for Independence. You can donate to it anytime. We also have some Pally links if you're looking to tip our cast and crew for a couple of games that stream regularly here on the channel. As you scroll down more than that on the beacons, you can see links to some of our great affiliates, Hit Point Press being one of them. We have an affiliate link if you're going to be purchasing anything from them. And again, you really can't miss, whether it's the animated spell cards or the Griffin Saddlebag books or any of the Humblewood materials. They have plush, they have music licenses, they have VTT stuff, STL, like there's tons and tons of stuff there. So definitely check them out. You can play a unique game like Shift, or you can boost up your 5e game with stuff like Heckna. There's lots of really great resources there. We are also affiliates with Eldritch Foundry. They make custom minis, no matter how weird and wild or normal and mild your TTRPG character might be. You can use code Sword and Key for 10% off your first purchase if you're going to be ordering a mini, or you can also use our affiliate link if you have a 3D printer and you wanted unlimited STLs for 3 months. You're only going to pay $19.99 with our special affiliate link. So check that out. We also are affiliates with Long Dog Dice. Janet Long Dog Dice makes incredible dice sets. You can use code Sword and Key for 10% off your first purchase. And when you do, you can order a dice set like the official Horizons Call dice set, which the D6 does have the Sword and Key logo on it. It's pretty cool. It's one of my favorite things that I own. And so you can pre-order that set or your perfect set. It doesn't happen to be my perfect set. I'm biased. But yeah, you also, just in case you don't see the absolute perfect thing, but something close, you can submit a form for a custom dice set. They are just about reasonably priced to whatever a pre-made dice set would be, so that's pretty cool. As you scroll down more on the beacons, you'll see links to the podcast Monster Crush. Is a podcast I do with my friend LD. We talk about different cryptids, creatures, miscellaneous monsters from myth and how smoochable they are. It is a podcast for people who love monsters or love monsters. You can find it wherever podcasts are found. It comes out every other week. It is bi-weekly, pansexual, and very much into monsters. As you scroll down more than that, you can see links to our YouTube, all of the other stuff there. For our calendar, let's see, later today, in just a couple hours at 3 p.m. Pacific time, we are going to have our next Horizons call stream. We're coming back from our just about a month break, so look forward to that. And then tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific time, we have Nightmares on the Frontier. Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, we have Summer in Carcosa. It's our Monster Hearts 2 game, which is our game run by Angela, Phoenix 24 Femme. It's very fantastic. I should mention Nightmares on the Frontier being run by Valtranth is a game I play in, not GM, for once in a long time. Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific time, we have Gate Night. It's where LD Shadow and I play Baldur's Gate 3. And then our next Sword and Tea will be a week from today on November 8th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We are talking with Nada about 8th Day of the Week, which is a fantastic TTRPG from them. So all that and more coming up in November. Probably in a couple of weeks. I say this being a time jump as I'm already technically time traveling a little bit here, just telling you about stuff, hoping it's going to happen. So check out our socials for anything that might contradict the things that I just said. But do check out our socials as well as our Discord, because we will likely have some applications out for our December charity campaign. We are going to be raising money for Project Hope. It's Project Hopemas in December. So we will have some game applications out for some one-shots, potentially more than one-shots. I don't know at this current point in time. I might know in the future, but I'm not there yet. So check that out. We will have a lot of games likely in December to raise money for Project Hope. So keep an eye on the Discord. That's where it's going to post first, and then social media second. All that said, thank you so much again for joining us. Thank you again to Jordan, and thank you to Hit Point Press. Go check out Shift. Don't wait. Don't sleep on this one. Download the stuff. Go to Kickstarter. Support this project. It sounds like there's way more stuff on the horizon for this as well, and it's a very fun game. Something you are guaranteed to love at your table. Bring to new players and veteran players, and something that I think a lot of people will find very refreshing. So we hope to see you sooner rather than later, but regardless of when that is, take care of yourselves, take care of others, and thank you.